Do you like any musicals?
Yes.
Which ones?
Rock of Ages.
Okay.
Rock of Ages is brilliant.
Any others?
No.
Hi, and welcome to episode 22 of Anniversary Edition. Today we are going to be talking about the Gay Divorcee, which is celebrating its 85th anniversary this year. As always, we're going to spoil the film, so please go and watch it and then come back and have a little listen. So I'm Sophie, and I'm here today with...
Adam, hi.
And Tom, hello.
Hey. So this is a 1934 American musical film. It was actually based on the Broadway musical Gay Divorcee, directed by Mark Sandrick and written by Dwight Taylor. So I've written like a cheesy overview of this film.
It would kind of have to be, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of figured it felt right.
Do you want me to whistle you in?
If you'd like to.
I don't think
No,
Tom
please
would
don't.
appreciate that.
I think maybe not. Okay. Guy Holden meets Mimi Glossop and becomes besotted with her whilst on a trip to England with his friend, lawyer Egbert Fitzgerald, who coincidentally happens to be Mimi's divorce lawyer. Guy and Mimi fall in love whilst in a hotel in Brighton, and Mimi successfully negotiates her divorce following mistaken identities and some song and dance along the way. Sufficiently cheesy? I think.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's about sums it up.
So, top line, Tom.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this film? Just very...
It was
Overview?
all right.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't dislike it. I didn't, love it, but it was exactly what I expected it to be.
Yeah.
It's a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers dance musical. You expect it to have a lot of kind of dancing in it, which it did, and, kind of I guess it's almost kind of like a screwball comedy plot, but they don't quite push it far enough. But it was all right.
Okay. Adam, I don't think it's going to echo quite Tom's sentiment.
I was put off the Gay Divorcee due to how aggressive Fred Astaire's character was, how controlling and demanding he was. I found myself very unable to want him to succeed in anything he does in life at all. I didn't like this film.
Okay.
I have to concur that I didn't like Fred Astaire.
Yeah, the character isn't...
Yeah.
You don't
He's not
really like the
likeable at
character
all.
from the outset.
And it's interesting because, I don't think he was, from what I've heard, a particularly likable person in real life. I don't know, but it's I don't know. I found in this, I wasn't convinced by him.
Okay.
But there was other stuff about the film I did like. So, but for me, he was kind of like the weak link, which I kind of feel is interesting because he's the star.
Yeah, I mean, so with my kind of top line, I've watched 100 of these types of films. It does what it says on the tin. It wasn't my favourite by, nowhere near my favourite, even of Fred and Ginger movies. But yeah, I mean, it was all right. But absolutely, as you say, I didn't find it as easy to warm to his character as you do in the other films that they kind of partner in.
Yeah.
But this was only his second film with Ginger Rogers.
Yeah.
Because he had been dancing with his sister up until then, and he didn't want to form a partnership where he would have to be dancing with the same person all the time again. So I think that comes across.
Yeah. There were moments when I was watching in one of the early dances that they do together where I feel like it's supposed to be the moment they're starting to fall in love, but almost whenever he has the opportunity, you can see that he's watching her feet and he's watching her dancing to make sure that it's up to his standard.
Yeah, I mean, he's renowned for being a taskmaster.
And I found it really interesting that kind of that came across as very kind of like controlling and aggressive, when it's kind of like you're supposed to be kind of in the character in that moment. He should be always sort of looking into her eyes or what have you, because that's a romantic moment. And I just kept thinking, why he keeps looking at her feet? He keeps looking at her feet, and you can tell it's so that he can say
check
afterwards and check. Oh, you missed that step, or
Maybe Guy has a fetish.
Well, maybe Guy does have a fetish, but yeah. So I found that kind of like. I think it highlighted for me my kind of main issue with Fred Astaire specifically, and my wife summed this up really, really well in an analogy that I could relate to very well. In that Fred Astaire is Jet Li, in that it's someone who does things to an incredibly high technical standard and is brilliant at it.
Yes.
But someone like Gene Kelly is Jackie Chan. They have that brilliant technical ability, but they put in character and heart and soul to it, so you feel much more engaged with them.
Yeah.
Which I find Fred Astaire kind of cold, which again I think exacerbated the stuff that Adam's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think because when we were talking about this initially, we kind of said, oh, there's always like a Fred Astaire or Gene Kelly. Like, who was your favourite? Because normally it's like a dancing thing, you know. You have one favourite, but Gene Kelly always wins from the heart of it. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
For that reason. So when did you guys first see this film, Adam? When did you first see it?
The first time I saw this film was last week.
Okay.
Was it last week I saw it?
Yeah, it was last week.
Yeah, it was last week I saw this film for the first time. I wouldn't have chosen to see it previously.
No.
Not a fan of the genre.
Do you think there is any movie within this genre that you might enjoy?
A dancing and singing film?
Yeah.
Sure. There are musicals I like. But this is just it's too far away from anything I'm interested in.
Okay. Interesting.
And yeah.
Because I thought, for me, I thought I like the story. I think it's a fun story.
Yeah.
But I kind of, in my head, I just kept thinking, I kind of feel like I want it to be like a Cary Grant screwball comedy.
Yes.
Like take out, like make it more of the farce that it is, and take out the sort of singing and dancing, which is kind of just there because it's Fred Astaire.
That's the genre that they wanted to pursue with this film.
Because they were massively popular at the time. You know, it was 1934, so it's middle of the Great Depression, and like Hollywood is all about extravagance, opulence, and escapism because that's what people wanted. Because you know,
and that film does represent this
absolutely
to a T.
Yeah,
it's got the glamour, you know, the costumes, the set, the big chorus numbers. It kind of brings the stage to the screen.
Yes, because people couldn't go to Broadway, they couldn't go to the West End. Yeah. So like you said, it does what it says on the tin, does what it set out to do. It ticks all of those boxes.
When did you first see this, Tom?
Last night.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I think I'm pretty sure I have seen one other Fred and Ginger movie.
Okay.
I would imagine it's probably either Top Hat or Swing Time, but I can't remember which.
Okay.
Because I do find them a bit kind of samey. Which, you know, they can be, but I think I feel like there are probably better ones than this.
Yeah, and that's what I said, because I saw this for the first time. Sorry, I saw this for the first time when I was little, but I kind of got a little confused as to which one it was until I watched it again last week. Because as you say, they are quite like samey films. You have, you know, boy meets girl. Generally speaking, in the Fred and Ginger kind of format, girl hates boy. Yeah. And then they either get thrown together by accident again or bump into each other thinking they're other people. So there's often like a mistaken identity thing going on. Yeah. Then they fall in love and, you know, happy ever after ending. Yeah. But yeah, I did get a little confused as to which actual
one it was.
One this was. So Adam, I'm going to come to you first. What was your favourite moment? Do you have a favourite moment?
My favourite moment in The Gay Divorcee, I don't know if I have one.
Is there anything you liked about it? Anything at all?
I liked Tanetti.
Tanetti.
He was a good character.
Yeah.
He was funny.
Yeah.
He was all heart.
Yeah.
And just got thrown into some unfortunate circumstance that he was put in a room with a couple of people who aren't great.
Yeah, I do find
I don't know how to express myself properly about this film. It left me very cold, but I liked Stanetti as a character.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I found the most engaging characters the ones that were actually really the ones that were overdone.
Yeah.
So Tanetti, the Aunt Hortense, and Edgar. Those are the ones I liked, and that's why I kept thinking that it needed to be that kind of screwball kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, there were some great lines in that they had that were kind of that sort of snappy, black and white comedy that I just kind of thought, I want more of that.
Yeah.
And then when it got to the Fred Astaire Ginger stuff, I started to kind of find myself drifting away a bit because I was like,
Yeah. Well, I don't think that I don't think they're as enthralling when you watch them as they are in their later stuff. Like when I think of Top Hat, and like it's such a nicer story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very similar. It's basically this redone, but in less kind of, like you said, like less of a aggressive kind of.
He's very domineering. He grabs her. He holds her down. He stalks her. He follows her. He chases after her in a high-speed chase. She tells him repeatedly she wants nothing to do with him, and he just doesn't listen. And he doesn't care. He has absolutely no interest in her autonomy as a human being. All that she is to him is something to be owned.
I mean, I think what's really hard is that we're watching this as a modern audience, and I think the way that men and women interacted back then was so different.
What's interesting is that we're looking back on it now, like you say, you're right. It does feel like he's very, very oppressive of her. But actually, if you think of it from a 1930s point of view, she's very bullshit back.
Yeah,
she's quite, you know,
forced.
for the time
a
period.
real story, he would have beaten her up. If it really happened.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, you know, you've got a woman here who is actively seeking a divorce.
Yeah.
Like she's acting as a woman in her own right. Obviously not to today's standards or today's modern audience, but I do find that really interesting. And one thing I was kind of fascinated about was how they were going to resolve it all, because in 1930 there was a thing written called the Hays Code, and it didn't get. Basically, the Hays Code was a censorship of movies, and it was a ordinance of rules that all movies that were produced had to follow, and it was essentially a way of the movie industry self-censoring itself, and it was very, very strict on things like sex, adultery. So I was always kind of like, how are they gonna do this? Because she's gonna get into the position where she's effectively faking adultery.
Yeah.
To get out of her, to get a divorce. So where does that sit in this code? And it wasn't until this year of 1934 that they started enforcing it rigidly. So this would have fallen underneath that code. So I looked it up, and it's got some fascinating rules in it that are very much of their time. But I like. So I mean, the big kind of spoiler surprise reveal at the end is that her husband shows up, and it's revealed that he's a bigamist.
Yeah.
And it's this really, really neat way.
It's a loophole
of getting around the sort of the Hays Code, in that this guy is worse.
Yeah.
So therefore, she is completely justified
in her
actions. But they're treading a very tricky line. There is some pretty it's worth having a read of the Hays Code because it's kind of there's some really interesting little
Yeah.
rules and things in it
That's really interesting because the stage show was called the Gay Divorce. Sorry, not the. It was just Gay Divorce.
That's right. Yeah.
But they wanted to change the name because they didn't think, because obviously the use of the word gay in that meaning, lighthearted and happy, and they, as they were releasing the film, they didn't want divorce to be associated with like happiness and lighthearted, so they had to change the name of the show, of the film. But it is really interesting, like the play between men and women watching it like now, because as you say, Adam, like if I watched that, if a modern movie got made and that was the dialogue,
that's not getting remade,
and that, well, it's just all like you would watch it and you'd get up and leave. But she always plays, to my memory anyway, quite like a strong-willed character, and that's the reason that he always likes her, because she's different to every other woman that he. And that's the thing that kind of pushes him to pursue her. And it's a courtship, and it's that kind of its time, I guess, in that, he's courting her because he gets annoyed that she hasn't left a forwarding address, basically, for him to get in touch with her when she drops the coat back. And although she never actually says, yes, I'm interested, and she basically always says, please go away, she never tells him that she's married. She never wants him to know that she's getting a divorce, because she never wants to I guess tarnish is the phrasing, herself in that way to him. So she obviously does care what he thinks about her.
I assumed that she didn't want to tell him she was getting a divorce because it would encourage him.
Well, she could have just said, I'm married.
She just said she wasn't interested, which should be the be all and end all of that conversation. Yeah.
It should be, yeah. And nowadays it, like we said, it absolutely would be. Well, should be.
Yeah. But he goes after her in the train station when he first sees her. It's love at first sight for him. He doesn't know anything about her.
No.
So he makes sure they're alone, and he makes fun of her for asking for help. And he makes sure that no one's around, and he tears her dress.
When you say it like
so
that,
problematic.
He doesn't, I don't think, intentionally tear her dress. He's just like, oh, I see an opportunity to help a damsel in distress, and he's trying to get her dress unstuck from the thing, and then it rips. I don't.
He's trying to be the hero,
and he can't be, because he's just not that type of character.
I think there's a world where a dress gets caught in a steel case and locked, and if you pulled it out, the steel case would give and not the fabric.
That's totally fair. Yeah, it's there's lots of issues watching it as a modern audience, like when you look back at that. But I think if you kind of step away from that and you look at like the genre, and my kind of favorite moment, I suppose, was the big kind of chorus number when they're in Brighton. And you've got the, when they're supposed to be in the room, but they end up coming downstairs, and you've got the massive kind of big chorus dance number.
The Continental.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think for me, looking at it like that, that's kind of what this genre of film offers its audience. Because unless you go to a Broadway show or a West End show, you never see that. And it's impressive.
Yeah, it was the longest...
sequence,
the longest dance sequence in a film at that point. It was like 16 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
17 and a half minutes. And I think Gene Kelly beat it with American in Paris.
Oh, I love that.
Which is like 18 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, it was a seriously big thing.
I was slightly annoyed they didn't film it as one continuous dance number.
Well, they keep cutting back to...
They keep cutting to the same people doing, so the girls would do flips, and then it'll switch to the girls and the guys in completely different positions, but the same same dancers. A frame later.
Yeah.
That was slightly annoying, but I suppose they're still trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. And I think that's because they could do that, I guess, before they were like, okay, well, we can't...
You need to figure out what you can and can't do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My actual favourite moment comes just before that, and it's the bit where Fred Astaire goes all MacGyver, and creates the dancing silhouette on the wall
Yeah.
with the lamp and the
Oh,
thing. And I
yeah.
was just like, that was in my head, just like the MacGyver theme tune was playing, and I was just like, okay, that's the cool bit for me.
Yeah.
And it's got a car chase, so it kind of ticked 2 of my boxes. A MacGyver homage, like what? 50 years before MacGyver existed, and car chase. So, yeah,
Well, I just like
was
that
fine
scene
with it.
before that because it was very Tenetti heavy.
Yes,
and
it
whilst he
yeah.
was a slightly racist caricature,
Yeah, very.
the fact his wife was cheating on him broke
Oh,
my heart
yeah.
because
Yeah.
he was
How
so
sad is that?
nice and he
Yeah.
didn't deserve it.
Do you know,
He's-
oh, go on.
Sorry, no. You carry on,
I
Tom.
was going to say something. I found out a fascinating fact about the actor that played him.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I just thought, I wonder, like, it's such a caricature. I'm like,
Yeah.
is this just someone doing an Italian, or
Yeah.
has he got actual any heritage or anything like that?
Yeah.
And I looked up where he was born and when he was born. He was born in 1906, but he was born in Indian territory.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, okay, hang on a minute, what? And it didn't kind of. I always forget how late, like, the Wild West actually was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, in 1907, Indian Territory and Oklahoma Territory combined to become Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
So, like, just seeing this guy who was born, like, literally in the Wild West, I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he is a great little addition to
Yeah,
the film.
yeah, yeah. He's a fun
Bursting with
character.
energy.
Yeah.
He really delivers his lines with gusto.
I like the waiter as well.
The waiter was creepy as hell.
He was creepy, but he had some good lines, and he
Yeah.
just kind of, I thought he was a.
I'm sure he's in some of their subsequent.
He is. He's in a lot.
Isn't he?
Yeah.
And so's the actor that plays the lawyer. Egbert.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, he's in a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think a lot were directed by the same guy. They were
Yes.
cinematography was done by the same
Yeah.
guy. So
It's like
yeah.
a group of core
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
people that they should
He was quite good, Egbert.
Yeah. I think he was my favourite character.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kind of
Do you guys
bumbling
have-
idiot, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So do you have kind of favourite characters as well?
I liked Egbert and the aunt.
Yes.
Hortense. I liked their kind of bizarre relationship
Very bizarre.
that just kind of
Oh, we're married now.
yeah. And I forgot. And it's like
He's a weak man and she's a strong woman.
well, yeah, and I just like. There's so much about them we don't know, and there's
Yeah.
this huge backstory.
What happened when they
Yeah.
went back to London?
But what happened,
happened
before
before?
that? Because they knew each
Yeah.
other before.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of unanswered questions about them, which I quite like the fact they're unanswered, but I also
Agreed.
they're kind of they're just kind of fun, and I like
Yeah.
the way they just throw things in, like, oh, we got married last night, and it
Yeah.
it's
Like
just
this
kind of
little throwaway.
Yeah.
Oh
Does
wait,
she
by
have
the way.
Alzheimer's?
I don't know. It hadn't
Because
occurred
she
to me.
forgets everything
Everything.
that's
She does.
immediately said to her. I'm surprised she knows
who Egbert is.
who Egbert is, given that there's some history there. She can't remember anything that
I mean, she
happened.
couldn't even remember her niece's name,
Yeah,
did
but
she?
the thing,
No.
doesn't that only kind of starts becoming apparent once they're in Brighton, right?
No, she's like a bit
Is she a
Kind
bit
of
dotty
wishy-washy
before
at
then?
the-
Yeah, no, she's dotty from the
when
first
they
scene.
arrive. Yeah,
But is she that forgetful?
Yeah, because she can't
Specifically.
remember like where she bought the clothes.
Oh,
She can't remember
that's
who
right,
she's
yeah,
coming
yeah.
to meet. She
Yep.
can't remember her niece's
Egbert's
name.
very forgetful as well.
They're
Yeah.
two peas in a pod, really, aren't they?
True.
Yeah, I think they just keep roofing each other. I think that's it. I think that's what happens.
But it's weird that none of our favourite characters are the leads.
Yeah. You do sometimes get that with kind of movies like this, that they end up kind of, in a way, the characters and the actors end up taking themselves so seriously that they
Yeah.
kind of lose the heart of it. And like we said, we always thought, he's a bit cold, and yeah, and I don't know, they're just fun because they're the
Yeah.
comic relief.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Aren't
they
they?
are.
And
Ginger Rogers' character is fine.
yeah,
She's got a bit of gumption, but she eventually just the way she quote unquote falls for Fred Astaire in that she dances with him and suddenly she's in love with him.
but that's what Fred Astaire's superpower.
Yeah, yes, that's the whole idea. And
Yeah.
boy, the kid can dance. I say kid. How old is he in this
I
film?
don't know how old he
He
was when he
scraped
did
so
this.
much of that hair back, half of it's come off.
Well, yeah.
He's not looking great.
I mean, because he wasn't young when he did these films.
No.
Because he died when he was like 88, I think, in
Good
in
innings.
87, I want to say.
Yeah, it was 87 he died.
And this was made in...
He was born in 1899.
Wow.
Good Lord.
So he was 35.
Yeah,
when
so
they made
he
it.
wasn't
35.
he wasn't young when he was
Yeah.
doing, and this was his second. So he basically was dancing for a long time with his sister, as like a partnership, but I can't remember what happened there, but they ended up kind of not dancing together anymore.
It's because he got
I
movies,
think
didn't want to
she-
start kissing his sister.
No,
I think she got
no.
married,
Guaranteed.
didn't she?
I think she wanted to do a solo thing, or she wanted
Oh,
to go
okay.
off on. I
Can't
think
remember.
that was the.
I never remembered her name.
Adele.
Adele Astaire. Oh, that's quite a good name.
It's great
It's actually
name,
a
isn't
better
it?
name than Fred Astaire. Adele Astaire.
But yeah, I think that's kind of, well,
Okay, so he was 35.
yeah, he wasn't a young
Yeah.
dancer at the time. He was, he'd been doing stage for years, and he'd spent a long time working his way up to where he got. And he was a perfectionist. Like, he's known for being just an absolute taskmaster.
Yeah.
And he would re-record like so many versions of his routines because he would listen to like every single beat. And if there was any beat missing, he would redo it.
Yeah.
And he was the same with Ginger Rogers.
And he wore tap shoes to restaurants.
Yes.
I don't think he's got his taps on in that number.
He
Dancers
absolutely
correct me.
does.
I'm not sure.
And he wears his tap shoes around his hotel room.
Yeah, he definitely has them on there.
He's definitely tap dancing in that restaurant.
He is, but I don't think he's got taps on.
So he's on a
Really?
special tap
I don't think
stage.
so.
Has he not got like single tap? Because you have singles and doubles, can't you?
Yeah, you can. So he's got loose taps in the hotel because you can hear the like echo of.
Yeah, it kind of does like a double, doesn't it, as opposed to a single thing. The only way I can tell if someone is tap dancing to a high standard is by the rhythm of the sound, because to me it just looks like they're trying to stop themselves from falling over.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of part of the affectation of the dance style.
I
right?
think it is, yeah, particularly in that sequence
Yeah.
that he's doing. I mean, he literally does look like he's about to just collapse off the edge of that stage most of the time.
Yeah, you ever see that YouTube video of like the longest fall, and it's like a guy shoveling snow, and he falls over for like 3 minutes.
I have seen that.
I've
Yeah, it's
not.
exactly like that. Yeah, and he go down his driveway. Yeah,
Yeah, it's I mean, he was a genius, of his time. In that, he kind of revolutionised a lot of styles of
yeah. I mean, you can,
dance.
like I said before, from a technical point of view, he is just so it's on point all the
So
time.
skilled. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I just find that then becomes lacking in like the emotional
Yeah.
side of it.
And I think because their partnership is so new in this film, I
Yeah.
don't think it's as kind of
He doesn't trust her.
no,
And that comes
and
across.
that's what comes across. And I think because I was reading and doing some research around this, and I think a lot of people say that this is one of their favourite kind of Fred and Ginger films, this or Top Hat. And I think because the plot is so similar, but for me, Top Hat wins hands down because the characterization's better, the synergy between them is so much more believable, and it's more affection, and there is trust where, for me, you can kind of see, and I guess for you guys too, that it's a little bit lacking in this film.
Yeah.
It's just not, and it's not as, their partnership isn't as polished. I mean, the dancing is flawless, but it's just lacking that like heart, I think, in kind of their relationship. And I think that comes across as to why they're not sort of lovable characters so much as well.
Yeah, I think so.
For me, it's the high-speed car chase as to why they're not lovable characters.
Okay. Fair.
Her Duesenberg versus his MG midget.
He hits her with his car.
Doesn't she hit him?
She hits,
No, he runs into the back
he
of
runs
her.
into the back of her.
Oh, yeah.
She sees him,
Oh, and then
and
she's
then
about to reverse, and then she
floors
won't.
it. She floors it to get
Yeah.
away from
Yeah.
him.
But then she's going to reverse into his car, and then she just won't do it because she's going to wreck her car.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What?
Unbelievable.
I mean, Adam,
Which was
I'm gonna come to
actually
you.
her car.
Was it?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, it actually belonged to Ginger Rogers.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is
So that's
very
probably
cool.
why she didn't want to wreck it.
That makes sense. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to either. Adam, I'm going to come to you because I think you probably have a lot to say on this.
Yeah.
What is odd about this film?
So there's the scene where the lawyer goes to Brighton for the first time,
Oh.
and he's in the hotel lobby,
Yeah.
and some girl comes up to him trying to.
knock your knees. Yeah.
She's trying to have sex with him.
The dance routine, knock your knees, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
having sex with him.
We're getting back to the Hays Code here.
Knocking knees is slang for having sex, right? That's.
I mean, that
what
whole
else could it be?
sequence, I was just like, why? What is going on?
Yeah.
And why is it here?
Yeah.
Like, I could not.
It reminded me of like the
odd to me.
Elvis movies where they'd be at a party and then someone would say something and they'd just start singing about it.
But at least, like, they're at a party and there's music and people are dancing.
They're
This
in a
is
hotel,
just in a
aren't they?
hotel
Yeah.
and they're just doing this weird thing. And was it Betty Grable?
I think so, yeah.
Who's the woman doing it? And I think they literally just were like, oh, she's on our books. We need to put her in a
I
movie.
think it was
Let's
that.
do that scene and off you go.
The thing is, it could have been made to look more natural by just placing a stage in there and them being like hotel entertainment.
Make it a few hours later in the day.
Yes.
Have them in the hotel bar.
Yeah.
As it is, I'm surprised he didn't. Did he? Should have just taken him back to his room and knock knees. Is that right? I mean, may as well. She's pretty. You know.
I
He's a bachelor.
I
didn't like that scene. I've got to say, it just
was
didn't
weird.
sit right.
And then did someone else
Super
start
weird.
taking over singing?
Yeah.
I think
There's
so.
also
there's a couple of
A couple of leads in that musical number, completely unannounced,
and then just go.
and then
you
never
it
see
doesn't
it again.
really add or do anything
No.
to the plot. Like
And-
nothing.
There's another scene later on. The scene where we're introduced to the waiter for the first time,
Yeah.
which
That
which
is
is
a bit peculiar.
which is essentially the scene where we're going to be introduced to Tognetti for the first time.
Love him. What a dude.
But you can start that scene with his car pulling up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's where that scene can start. But there's probably 5 minutes worth of
Yeah, I
just
reckon so.
Edgar and the
The waiter.
waiter just chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, you're setting up the waiter's character, but you also do that when the waiter is interacting with Hortense and Ginger Rogers, and if anything, that's a better introduction
Yeah,
of the
because it's
character.
just more natural that he'd be there.
Yeah. So yeah, super weird. So there was loads of this. I mean, this was 1 hour 47 minutes. This movie, and it could easily have been 90.
Yeah, for sure. Like that totally didn't do anything.
Yeah, and not, and literally like taking stuff out that just didn't need to be there, wasn't funny, didn't add anything to the story. But yeah, super weird. I also found the whole finger puppets at the beginning super strange.
Oh, that was odd
yeah,
as
that was
well,
peculiar.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think the whole point of it was they're supposed to be in Paris, and really they'd be at somewhere like the Moulin Rouge,
But they couldn't have it
but
in the
because
film.
of the Hays Code, they can't have it in the film. So they literally did it with finger puppets. But it does lead to quite a funny gag of there being puppets on the tables and Fred Astaire's kind of doing it along.
Yeah.
And then Edgar just essentially has
Yeah.
2 left fingers. Like he can't.
Yeah.
He and it just sets up this relationship between
Yeah.
them that Edgar's
One
bumbling
can
on.
dance and one bumbles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then doesn't he still have it on his hand?
He
Or doesn't
puts it
puts
back on later.
And then the aunt comes in and she's
Awkwardly.
like, "Oh, I didn't know you like dolls," and it's just total throwaway. Yeah,
Weird.
it is a little bit peculiar. Yeah, there are quite a few moments like that I think don't, but I think they ironed that out again. Kind of going back to later movies, they're so much more slick as well, and I think there's less of that kind of this peculiar scene just for the sake of having it.
Yeah.
I mean, I might just be remembering them wrong, but I think that's the case. So, okay, Tom, what's good about this movie? What still holds up? What works?
What's good about it? I mean, obviously the standard of their dancing, although it's not particularly to my taste, is exceptional.
Yeah.
I do like Adam. I do like Tognetti, even though he is kind of a
You couldn't
close
have him in a
close to
film today.
racist caricature. But yeah, I think there's I like that, and I was quite surprised at how they were quite progressive in terms of Ginger Rogers' character, even though still by today's standards not very. But to have a female character like actively seeking divorce,
Yeah.
and trying to change her life against the essentially
she's not
against
happy.
the against the men in her life because she's not happy. I thought that was really good. Aside from that, I mean, it's kind of exactly what I expected it to be, really.
From a technical point of view, because obviously, you kind of have more of an eye when you're watching films for that type of thing. Do you think of it for its time that like the way it was shot was new in any way, or that?
It's difficult to tell because I have to say, like, it. You have to remember it was made only 7 years after the advent of sound in movies, so like it's still pretty early, really.
Yeah.
There were some things that I did quite like. There were some interesting camera angles and camera choices. I think when in that first dance we were talking about where like he's often looking at her feet, they do this kind of like they'll have like your set stage theatre style shot.
Yes.
That's essentially the master shot. It's wide. You can see their full figures. But then it would nowadays you'd probably cut to close-ups and mid-shots.
Yeah.
But then, because it was all about the dancing and all about the footwork and stuff like that, they tend to keep them in full-length shots. But they did at least actually vary those up, like through windows, or they would kind of create kind of like, looking through objects. And I thought that was kind of interesting and nice, and it made a nice change from just that kind of very static stage setup.
Yeah.
It wasn't as kind of technically advanced as other movies that I'd seen, or if you think, I guess around this time, there's a lot of, it's kind of this and gangster movies, really. So those gangster movies tended to be a bit more creative with their lighting and things like that, which was kind of pre-noir and going into film noir. Whereas this, I think, was very much, the point of it was to give the audience the experience of going to a stage show.
Yeah.
That they couldn't afford to go to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would have taken, just think of the huge amount of lights they would have needed and stuff like that to just get this stuff.
I mean,
because they're huge scenes like that, like the Continental, where they've got all those dancers and,
the staging was just,
Yeah.
Adam, how about you? What's good? Can you pick anything that's good?
So I think the standard of the dancing, for sure. The opening tap dance scene of Fred Astaire is probably the peak of it.
Okay.
For me. You mentioned all the lights. I just want to go back to that.
Yeah.
Wasn't it weird? We mentioned this when we were watching it. That there's a line where Ginger Rogers says, "Don't you love looking at the shadows of the dancers on the beach?"
Right.
But it was midnight.
Oh yeah, when they're sat on a balcony looking out.
I mean, there is such a thing as moonlight.
That's
Moonlight is not strong enough to cast a shadow on a beach.
Well, I don't know. Maybe sometimes there's reflected light. There'll be light from the hotels and the pier. And because don't forget they're in Brighton, so the seafront will be illuminated. And
in
That's true.
Brighton, the seafront is rocky, so they won't be on the beach.
Well, yeah, fine, but I mean, it's an American audience that doesn't know that Brighton doesn't have a beautiful sandy beach.
It's a weird line in a tender scene that makes no sense to anyone.
Yeah, but it's romantic, so you're not supposed to notice.
Okay, cool. So the tap dance at the beginning, that's pretty good. I don't think anything else is good. I think we're giving Ginger Rogers too much credit for being a character with gumption, because by today's standards, she absolutely doesn't have any. If you stick Anne Hathaway in that role and set that film today, people will be complaining about what a doormat she is.
Oh yeah, but I mean, you can't really.
At the time, she'd be unusual.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the time, she was.
So are we talking about what still holds up, or what was good for then?
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. It doesn't hold up now.
Obviously, it was good for them. It was a hit film.
Yeah.
But
like
for
you
today,
say,
I don't think it has any leg to stand on, aside from a decent 3-minute falling.
I mean, for me, the dancing is what carries it through as like a film to still watch. I totally take on board the fact that like the characterization is not ideal.
Yeah.
But
do you think the dancing's better than Street Dance? Or Step Up? Or Honey?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I'm not the biggest Street Dance fan.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I don't know. I've never seen any of those movies.
You're missing
Never
out.
watched Honey? Oh my gosh, Tom, what a surprise.
No, never seen
On
it.
that note,
On that note,
I guess we're probably done with the Gay Divorcee.
I know I am.
But thank you very much for listening, and you can join us next week when we are going to be talking about Seven Samurai. Bit of a step change.
All 7 of them.
So that's a bye from me.
Bye.
Bye.
This podcast was recorded in the Upbeat Studio in Soho. For studio inquiries, drop us an email on studio@upbeatproductions.com. You can also find us on Twitter. Head to @upbeatprod to see what we're up to, and @upbeat_ents for our film coverage and entertainment news.